A few years ago, I was suddenly hit with the urge to play through many games that I had missed out on growing up, as well as replaying some classics that I experienced and remembered fondly. I can't remember what officially triggered it, but I do know that around the time I purchased my Nintendo Switch in the summer of 2017, I was sucked into the wide world of video game content on YouTube. See, for as much as I always considered myself a diehard gamer, video games and I had to take a much needed break during my college years and leading up to the first few years of my career. That's not to say I completely stopped playing video games. On the contrary, I remember running through the Arkham games, playing a ton of Smash Brothers, and even co-oping a Halo or two and even New Super Mario Bros. Every now and then. But I'd say my full-on obsession with gaming that I had as a child and leading up to around the midpoint of the Wii's life had to take a back seat. However, in 2017, things started to change. I ran through almost the entirety of the Mega Man series, experiencing most of it for the first time. I went headfirst into 2D Metroid and discovered a love for a classic genre I didn't even know I'd ever appreciate. I even decided to give all the RPG Mario games an effort that I hadn't given in over a decade. A lot of my inspiration to play certain games came through YouTube. I'd randomly stumble upon a channel and just binge it all, finding myself agreeing or disagreeing with a review or a sentiment, jumping over to another channel that was recommended and finding the opposite opinion displayed. I started hearing positive opinions on games that I always knew were considered bad, while at the same time learning that some games that I saw to be near flawless were largely critiqued and downright considered bad by extremely prominent content creators. One of the first YouTubers I found myself really enjoying was Exo Paradigm Gamer. I loved going through his Mario and Sonic videos, and in a lot of ways they're what inspired me to focus on those series when I eventually decided to start a channel. I remember hearing him speak positively about Sonic Adventure 2 and claiming that Some Call Me Johnny was the reason people even started thinking Sonic Adventure 1 was better, and that neither of them were actually considered any good, which was weird to me, because Sonic Adventure 2 was one of my favorite games of all time, so I felt I gelled well with Exo's opinion. But then he released a video on Mario Sunshine, a game I always thought was unanimously disliked, and he spoke about how great it was. I eventually moved on from Exo's channel. I made a stop along the Greek critique and found myself reliving a lot of my childhood through the lens of an extremely passionate Sonic fan that seemed nostalgia-driven and in a lot of ways sentimental and relatable. I discovered Antude and I slowly figured out he wasn't just a happy-go-lucky yes-man Kirby lover, he also had some really harsh criticisms. Chances are, if you're watching this, none of these names are new to you. But the point is, at the time, for me, they were very new, and I enjoyed sorting by oldest and going through their content. Shout out to YouTube for making all of that more difficult now. The reality, though, is that I always avoided Some Call Me Johnny, and it's all because of the statement Exo made in his video about Sonic Adventure 2. I figured there was no way in heck I could ever enjoy his channel if he didn't like Sonic Adventure 2. Until one day I got pointed in the direction of his Mario Sunshine video. I thought, and still do think, that he's way too harsh on that game, but I also found a common ground with him because when I played that game, 20 frickin' years ago, I had similar feelings. All told, all this YouTube stuff got me to realize two things. A vast majority of gamer YouTubers seem to have biases for games released in their adolescence. Granted, I still think this applies, but too many people are in denial to admit it. And the second thing I realized was that I wanted to do a proper analytical playthrough of all of the mainline Mario and Sonic games because my opinions of those games were from many years ago. And there were so many differing opinions online, so I wanted to see how I felt about those games and if I were to play them today. I did pretty well. I got through the 2D games pretty quickly. Some of the 3D titles took a bit longer than expected to fully complete. I also didn't fully have my retro setup in my house during a lot of this, so I was mostly playing whatever I could play at the time. I'll put all the 2D Mario and Sonic stuff to the side for now, but I remember making it up from Sonic Adventure to Sonic Heroes, playing on nothing but touch controls on my Galaxy Note 8 via Dolphin until I stopped because my phone couldn't really run Sonic Colors. Every time I played through one of these games, I found myself talking to my friends about them and sharing my opinion in a group chat. I'd usually get a reply or two, barely would get a discussion out of it. I never managed to fully finish the Mario and Sonic series though, because somewhere along the way I decided I was going to start this YouTube channel, so I could share my opinions with people that actually cared. I mean, I figured if so many people out there were allowed to share their dumb and incorrect opinions online, then why couldn't I also share my dumb and incorrect opinions? So I started everything over. And what you see on my channel today is what I've gotten to so far. And finally, now that I'm almost 1,000 words of my script, I can segue into the fact that I wanted to play all of the 3D Sonic games before covering Sonic Frontiers. I wanted to have a whole list of videos going through the ups and downs of Sonic before dropping a Frontiers video. In many ways, today's video should have been Mario 64 vs Sonic Adventure, but it isn't, because around a month ago, I decided on a whim to play Sonic Frontiers for a bit, and then proceeded to spend over 20 hours in one weekend playing the game, something that I haven't done in a very, very long time. I'll be completely honest, I wasn't recording through most of my playthrough, since I didn't think I'd be making a video on it. And even when I decided to start getting some footage, I screwed up the settings on my hardware, so most of it doesn't look all that well. But I didn't care, I just wanted to play the game. I'm not here today to give an in-depth review or a full breakdown of the game. I'm here to tell you all that I loved Sonic Frontiers. I love Sonic Frontiers the way I loved Sonic Adventure 2. In many ways, and not just because of the stupid quote-unquote open zone comparison everyone keeps mentioning, this game was to Sonic Adventure 2 as Mario Odyssey was to Mario 64. At least that was the case for me, and there's no higher praise I could give the game. I loved the story. I loved the somber atmosphere, the discussions between the characters, seeing Sonic have his positive attitude while also displaying a proper sense of care and worry for his friends. Seeing him try and win over Sage because he knows that if he does, everything will be okay for everyone. Seeing Sage's relationship with Eggman develop. I loved the exploration and learning of Sonic's new moves, figuring out that you can spam certain attacks against certain enemies and then make them easier, learning how to trick the game into sending you flying into a certain direction, or how to trick Sonic into avoiding a 2D section in the overworld, or how to find a new way to enter a location you weren't supposed to be able to enter. Finding the vault keys and portal gears and completing all the missions to get a Master Emerald. The missions were usually easy to complete in one go, but every now and then you'd face a cyberspace level that just knocks you down for a good 20 minutes. Every Master Emerald collected felt like an accomplishment. Every memory token cluster gave me a sigh of relief. The quickfire swinging between miscellaneous obstacles in an open world often felt so smooth to accomplish, and the memory tokens felt rewarding as a result. And if I ever got desperate, I'd just spin in circles repeatedly until I got enough memory tokens to speak to the characters and progress through the game. If this was my in-depth Sonic Frontiers video, I promise you I'd be going through everything with more scrutiny and more details than simply just saying I enjoyed them, but with the way gaming is today, I don't think it's time for me to do a full in-depth Sonic Frontiers video until a year or two from now when the full game is actually released and all the updates and bug fixes and DLC are done making their rounds. The title of this video is Why I Loved Sonic Frontiers though. It's because I was able to pick up a controller and play through the game and genuinely struggle to put the controller down. Dude, I got sucked into this game, in a way that I hadn't gotten sucked into a game for a very long time. When I started the game up and eventually entered this fast world with little control as to the direction I had to go, it was a strangely familiar feeling. I know many people have been comparing it to Breath of the Wild, and many sticklers have been quick to correct them and say it's more like Mario Odyssey. But for me, the start of this game, strangely enough, gave me vibes that I had felt a year prior. Call me crazy, but it reminded me of the feeling of wonder and excitement I got walking out onto Zeta Halo in Halo Infinite. Which, in and of itself, was a replication of the feeling I got when I was a kid playing Halo 1 and was first blinded by its majesty. The feeling of wonder mixed with fear and excitement was felt while playing Frontiers. I wasn't in Green Hill Zone or City Escape or wherever. This was different. I was in uncharted territory. I was able to explore freely and do what I'd like and be dumbfounded by the random pop-in during a $60 game in 2022. There was just enough boost to not break the experience. There was just enough speed to make me want to try out random maneuvers or rush across the map. There was just enough Sonic to remind me that this was indeed a Sonic game, while just enough of everything else to make me feel like the stakes were much different than anything my blue friend had ever experienced before. Eventually I got into the swing of things. I learned what to collect and how to collect it, repeated it through the zones, enjoyed the repetitiveness of it because it didn't feel mundane since I always wanted to find a way to get more efficient at the objectives at hand, be them in cyberspace or in the overworld. Climbing the towers in the 4th area brought in a fresh challenge that I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did. I liked the change of pace. I liked that I kept testing myself to move up the tower as quick as possible, and that feeling of frustration when I'd miss a jump or get too confident in my maneuvers. I think a proper modern gaming critic would claim that mistiming some of those jumps was poor game design, or that they felt they were being punished when they did nothing wrong or whatever it is people say these days. But I personally felt it was just part of adjusting myself to learn how to better control Sonic in this game. By the time I had gone to the final area, the game did start to feel like it was dragging a bit, but I do wonder if that's because by that point I had spent all weekend playing the game and was quickly trying to wrap things up on a Sunday evening. I've seen some reviewers share the same sentiment, but I don't think this game is meant to be a quick one and done to get a YouTube video out. I enjoyed the random micro challenges needed to be done to uncover more of the map. It's better than just simply holding X. I enjoyed the out-of-place pinball minigame coming in from out of nowhere, and the weird Galaga minigame that was so fitting to hack a Robotnik computer. And heck, I even loved that they took what you learned from these Galaga-style missions and applied them into challenging final boss. I know people like to critique the final boss in this game because they want something epic and groundbreaking, but, well, you didn't really need it by that point. Because if you're looking for epic, if you're looking for chills and hype and all that good stuff, well, you already got it a few times already. You got it when you didn't expect it. It's one thing when a game surprises you at the final boss with an epic spectacle. It's a whole other thing when it hits you fairly early on when you weren't expecting it at all and causes you to excitedly anticipate the next time you'd get to experience that feeling in the same game. I don't know if I've rambled on long enough yet. I don't know if you agree or disagree with my sentiments. I'm not sure if there was even a point to releasing this video when I didn't really break anything down or provide proper editing throughout the video. But what I do know is that I loved Sonic Frontiers. And judging by some opinions online, I'm not the only one. However, there are many people pushing back against this game, and I think it's worth saying that this is a good game rather than staying silent about it. Sometimes it's okay to say you love a game just because you enjoyed playing through it. You don't have to always have an asterisk or a caveat at the end of the video mentioning that it's not a perfect game but you loved it anyway. As far as I'm concerned, if you enjoy a game, then at that point it's a good game. Others might not feel the same way, but that shouldn't really matter. Now, with all that being said, and to stop rambling on, I'm genuinely happy I played Sonic Frontiers, because it did help me sort of determine the direction of this channel would take. I always thought I'd be running through the Sonic games in release order and continue after the most recent title. That makes the most sense, right? That's what everyone does. But playing this game without all the nuance of the previous titles, either because I haven't played them before or because I haven't played them in a very long time, allowed me to enjoy this game without holding it up to an arbitrary standard or without feeling like I had a negative taste in my mouth. I recently discovered I like Donkey Kong Country 3 more than its previous two releases, and it was mainly because I didn't feel the burnout of the first two games before playing the third game. Maybe that's what 3D Sonic games need. Maybe we don't need a 3D Sonic retrospective for the billionth time. Maybe what the Sonic fandom, or really what the video gaming community needs, is a reverse retrospective. Okay, I don't even know if that makes sense. Maybe it's a retrospective in reverse? I'm not sure. Either way, I think I'm going to work my way back through the Sonic series and see what it looks like as I move back towards the beginning. And then when it's all said and done, and they're done updating and releasing everything they want to release about Sonic Frontiers, I can do a proper video where I analyze the game in full. This doesn't necessarily mean I'm only going to cover Sonic games until I end this retrospective in reverse. I might still get sidetracked here or there to cover something else, but this is how I'm going to play through the 3D Sonic titles. In fact, one of the first things I did after beating Frontiers was decide to download and play Sonic Forces. I had initially skipped over it because of all the negativity around the release, and well, I guess if you're really curious to see how I felt about that game, make sure to subscribe and wait for my next video. As always, thanks for watching. Dean, out.